Hello everybody, this is Coach Eby, and welcome to Relaxed and Fast, where each Wednesday we dive into a wide variety of topics to help you become a better runner and person, where we try to give you a behind-the-scenes look into our program, our philosophies, and more specifics on how we develop our student athletes, and give you ideas on how to grow your routines and improve as a runner and a person. We appreciate you listening in and hope you enjoy this episode.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Relaxed and Fast. Today, we are going to be talking about comparison. In the modern society that we live in, I think comparison is one of the hardest things to manage, especially in a sport, especially in some kind of hobby with social media and the access that we have to everyone's everyday lives. So, jumping right into it, Coach, why is comparing yourself to others so dangerous?
As you just mentioned, in our modern society, I think the biggest trouble with comparison is that social media is what we're comparing it to, and social media is fake. You're getting 1% of what an actual person's life really looks like.
You're getting what other people want you to see. Yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. And so it's just so difficult when you're seeing portions of, all of the bright, shiny portions of somebody's life, to try to compare your life to that and your journey to that. So yeah, I think it can be really challenging, and I think that's, especially over the last 5 to 10 years. I've seen greater rates of depression and anxiety and all of those things in the athletes that I work with. I've seen a lot of those things in myself and my wife and my friends and my family. And I really do think that social media and being on our phones and, just screen time in general is what leads to a lot of that. So. Absolutely. Doom scrolling and just going down that rabbit hole can just be such a negative, negative thing.
I would have to agree with the social media aspect of it. I think there's definitely positives and negatives to social media, but with comparison, it's just so easy to compare yourself to some pro athlete that's so out of this world talented and has done so much work, and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes of a lot of things, and even like people on like our level, like we don't know what's going on behind the scenes with those people. And sometimes I feel like those people posting, they're editing photos, they're editing their lives to see what they're playing it to see what you want. So Exactly. It's almost a delusion, and unfortunately, like people are so insecure in themselves, it's almost like they put that out because they're insecure, and then it makes other people insecure, and it's a negative feedback loop. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I thought it's some interesting insight there.
Makes it 100% sense.
I think honestly, like that, this could be a whole other different episode just talking about the social media aspect. But like, I just quickly want to mention the addictiveness of it. Like I was talking to my mom the other day, and it is literally like people always say like, oh, I'm so addicted to my phone. They don't understand that it is genuinely like.
It's like being addicted to cocaine.
Most of people in our modern society are like legitimately addicted to their phones. Like I've caught myself, if I'm in a situation where like my anxiety's flared up and I'm like waiting for something, say I'm like waiting for a job interview or something, I'm just like mindlessly scrolling through my phone trying to get like the dopamine hit, and I've caught myself doing that. I'm like, this is literally like an addiction. It's like if I were to pull a vape out of my pocket, to calm myself down. But yeah, it's important to be intentional about that stuff, especially when it's something that goes along with that comparison aspect. It's kind of two evils working together. And then I think going off of that, though, we've talked about the bad things that can come with that. Is there a time when it's good to compare yourself to others?
Yeah, I think if you can have a healthy relationship with it, Hope liked it when I would pull out Kelly's old workouts and show her times. And so she fed off of that, and she always wanted to strive to hit those things, to be at that level, all of that kind of stuff. And so I think if you have a healthier view of how you're comparing and what you're comparing yourself to and how you're using that to push yourself forward and to kind of figure out where you are and should be and that kind of stuff, then I think it can be a positive.
Going off that, I remember, I can recall a very moderately recent example of that, of right before outdoor conference, I came in here, run the 10K, right? And I was like, I'm a little scared about this 10K, and you pulled out maybe the last 10, 15 years of 10Ks. Like, my brother being in them, and having Isaac and Spence in those, and we looked through those, and Krupp, I think, was in a few of them. So we looked through those, and you're like, okay, well, let's see how they get out. And that comparison to that aspect helps a lot, because then you can compare, what have others done in the past? How can I work off how the race usually gets out? Is there a pattern I'm seeing here? And I think that comparison is positive. I think there are areas where you can compare yourself to, like, if I want to model myself after this person, right? If I wanted to be like Kobe Bryant, and I'm going to compare to, like, what would Kobe do or something, you know what I mean? I just think, like, you almost have to be careful with that, because if you get too caught up in that lifestyle, like, there almost has to be, like, I don't know if you agree with this, but there almost has to be a little bit of a reality check, right? Of, like, okay, yes, you're trying to be like this figure, and that's great, but, like, is there a time where you get too caught up in it, right? I don't know if that makes any sense, but...
And I think you kind of perfectly touched on it there. It comes down to the intentionality of why you're comparing. If you're going into it and letting your insecurities talk and, like, oh my God, I'm never going to be like this person, they had all this stuff going for them, then it's not going to be beneficial for you mentally. But if you go into this for, like, oh my goodness, I did something like this person, like, I have this going for me and they also did, then it's more constructive, you know?
Or it's even like, say, like, in high school we did it a lot, where, like, when I was a freshman, there was a really good senior on the team, right? And he ran this and that at this point in his career, and then, you go run that, and you're like, oh, well, as a freshman, he actually ran 5 seconds slower than what you just ran, and then you get excited about that, and that's something to be excited. I think that's a really good thing, and that's a motivator, but, like, it could cause pressure as well. So I think it's about not getting too caught up in it. But going off that, how do you stop comparing yourself to others in, like, a negative way?
I automatically start thinking about Instagram again and just doom scrolling. And I think having the consciousness and being aware of the fact that what you're looking at isn't real. There are clinical psychologists that work for these companies that are trying to get your eyeballs to stay on your screen. And they are very good at what they do. And so, God forbid I ever suggest just deleting your social medias, but that is one way to do it. And we've had some athletes that have successfully just deleted them, and they just don't get on there anymore. And they talk about how much better they feel off of that. It's really hard to keep yourself in check with what you're comparing yourself to, how you're comparing yourself to those things. And so I think it's just a consciousness of, what are you trying to get out of the interactions that you're having? What are the habits that you're creating? I think habits is just such a big thing. Ryan Holiday talks about one of the best things that you can do is when you get out of bed in the morning, don't touch your phone for over an hour.
Yeah. That's a big one.
If you're starting your day off with instantly going and scrolling or listening to news or being on your phone, you're not going to be, at least I find I'm not nearly as productive when I do that.
I agree.
This morning I left my phone because I use it as my alarm. They even say you shouldn't even use your phone as your alarm because you're not tempted to just pick it up.
You shouldn't even charge the phone on your nightstand. Charge it, like, on the other part of a room. Yeah.
But I use my phone as my alarm, and so this morning I set it down, and I didn't run right away like I normally would because I'm running with Dr. Locke here in a little bit. But I immediately went up into the attic and I journaled for a little bit. And then I came down and I changed and I packed up for the rest of the day. And then I went back upstairs and I worked from like 6:30 until 9 o'clock. And I was so much more productive and felt so much better having not really been on my phone yet. I think that's one of the best things that you can do is start your day off by doing other things and just not immediately going into doom scrolling, not immediately checking your text messages, not immediately checking your emails, because then you're letting other people dictate how your day is going to go.
Yes, exactly. I started doing that stuff going into the second, Dillon knows, going into the second semester, I started charging my phone on the other side of the dorm. You know what I mean? And when I'd wake up, I'm like, 30 minutes to an hour, that's not going on. I'm setting the alarm on my watch, right? And 30 minutes to an hour, I'm not touching it. And I'd always be like, well, what if somebody important texts me, right? And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, like, these people can wait. Like, this is what I'm doing is more important than the iMessage that I might be getting at, 7, 8 a.m. You know what I mean? Unless it's urgent. Like, if it's urgent, people know to call me, right? So now that summer has started, because I kind of fell out of that habit. Now that summer has started, though, I've became more intentional about getting off the phone in the morning, charging it completely away from me, just staying away from it. And when you wake up in like hour and a half, you do that. You don't go on your phone. You journal or meditate, especially journaling and meditating right in the morning or going on a walk. You feel so much more at peace. There's so much more peace. Like I've done it where I've just been like, I'm going full monk mode for today. I'm not touching the phone until like noon. Wake up like 8 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., right? And just like go meditate, journal, read, and you feel so much better.
Yeah.
It feels amazing.
It's amazing. Oh man, I lost my train of thought. No.
It's amazing, like the amount of peace of mind you get from not touching an iPhone. And it's like, people like me and Dillon's age like can't even imagine life before the iPhone.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. Actually, I remember a time where we were at the movie the other night, and we have the cameras to keep an eye on the dogs in our house, and my phone just kept buzzing and buzzing and buzzing, and so finally I just pulled it out and I was like, what are these knuckleheads doing? And Becky did that when we were at dinner a couple weeks ago, and I was like, you do realize that like 20 years ago, we just went to dinner and whatever happened, happened.
Exactly.
Like,
same thing.
Nobody
with, like,
could call
doorbell.
you. Nobody could text you. Like, and so we still functioned as a society. We still had relationships with other people. It's just so interesting how everything has to be instantly respond. I'll have athletes that will send me a text message at 9 o'clock at night on a Friday when I finally have some time to spend with Becky, and they'll ask me a question, and like 15 minutes later they'll put the little question mark thing on it. It's like, dude, my phone is up in my bedroom. I am in the basement, like hanging out with my wife. Like, your question either wasn't important enough to ask me earlier in the day, or you can wait. But we're getting off topic.
Yeah, we're getting off topic. It's the same principle, and there's definitely like positives, like phones, technology aren't like evil, but like the negative parts of it are a huge thing to be talked about and to be kind of like handled. Yeah. I think there's a lot of negatives that like even I don't want to get too off topic, and I'll cover it real quick. Even like the dating realm or the relationship realm with social media has been completely changed. The whole game's been changed. All of that stuff's been changed. Like, you can have friends in California that you talk to every day now over the phone, which is a good thing. But then it's other things like we have Ring doorbell at my house, and my mom will consistently check it, and we'll look, and it's just some dude walking his dog. Dude, 30 years ago, you wouldn't have known that. Yeah. You just kind of like lock up your house and like make sure it's safe and hope for the best, right? It's definitely a good thing to catch people like robbing your house in the act, but like, you know what I mean? Like can you imagine life before that? So I wanted to go off that.
Let me add one more thing to that. I think that
we're going down
to sum it up, I think it's just important that you look at the technology that we have as kind of like a privilege and more of a supplement and not the whole sum, because I think it's really easy in the society that we live in to get caught up in the like thinking that all of this stuff is mandatory and thinking that you have to be caught up with everything that's going on. That's why I find myself scrolling on the news and all this stuff, and I need to know what's going on so that I can relate to all this stuff. But like you guys just said 30 times, like 20 years ago, that wasn't the reality of things. It's not, you don't have to know what's going on all the time. It's just something that's there if you need it.
It's almost the culture now is that you have to know what's going on all the time. You're not in with the time. You don't know the new fashion trend, what's going on in the news, the new song that's out.
I hate to tell you, the new fashion trend is the stuff I wore in high school. So the new fashion trend is the old fashion trend.
Yeah, exactly. Or you don't know the new shoes to run in.
And the other interesting part is that, with technology, things like Strava now exist, right?
Yeah, we should talk about
Strava is essentially a social network, but it just includes your training on there, and people are still looking for validation through their training, and they're trying to run harder on their runs to make it look, they're not doing what you need to do in order to be successful. Once again, I have my paper training logs sitting in this cabinet right here from 20 years ago. And I can show you those, but I didn't need to have them broadcast out to the world.
I actually accidentally got caught up in that a couple of days ago, where I was on Strava editing my Strava post and looked at some dude from another school, and he did a workout. I'm like, he's doing a workout this early. I'm like, wow. I wonder why he's doing that. And then I look at one of our teammates. I'm like, this guy just dropped 7 miles at 6:30 pace. Why do you go that fast this early? And then I was like, what am I doing right now? And then I just closed out and turned it off. That guy was Sam, by the way.
I was just gonna say at Sam Sikorsky.
That guy was Sam. But you know what I mean? I turned it off and just got away from it.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening. At this point, we're going to take a quick break so that Eby can tell us about the XC in the Hills running camp.
Are you or someone you know a high schooler looking to get a jump start on your cross-country season? We have just the thing for you. Cross Country in the Hills camp this July 20th through the 23rd in Mohican State Park in Butler, Ohio. Cross Country in the Hills is a great opportunity to get a solid week of training in going into your fall cross-country season. You will have the opportunity to go on a long run on beautiful single-track trails through the state park that end at a historic covered bridge where you can soak your legs in the river. There are 2 planned runs per day, so you will certainly get your fill of running. The camp also offers instruction and a chance to participate in drills and exercises to improve and supplement your training. But we also have a ton of fun at camp. At the campground with outdoor activities including a guided tubing trip, a day at the lake with access to a giant inflatable obstacle course, team competitions, movie nights, fun and unique games, a themed dance with a DJ on the last night, and much, much more. You will also have the opportunity to spend some time with myself and some of our athletes from Baldwin Wallace, who all serve as counselors. You can also turn this into a great opportunity for some team bonding going into the season by inviting some of your other team members to join you. We would love to see you there this summer. Because you listen to the podcast, we have a $25 off discount code. LAXATFASTXC. Again, that is LAXANDFASTXC. All one word, all capital letters. We hope to see you in Mohican State Park, July 20th through the 23rd.
What are some ways to turn comparison into self-improvement instead of self-doubt?
Yeah, I think finding good mentors, finding people and habits that you want to compare yourself to and hold yourself accountable to. None of us are perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but you can have mentors that are in your life that are constants and that you see all the time, but then you can have people that you can follow on the internet or whatever, and you can go read books by them and so on and so forth. And so, what are the things that you want to find? So you were talking about Kobe earlier, right?
Yep.
I could work as hard as Kobe at playing basketball and would never have made the NBA. I don't have that skill set. But that doesn't mean that the lessons and the things that he used to get to that level aren't transferable into life. They aren't transferable into other areas, other sports, other practices or habits that you want to create. And there's obviously Kobe's one of a million different people that are out there that you can follow and try to find different parts of different people that can help you become really successful.
Yeah, I
so
mean-
once again, I just mentioned Ryan Holiday, don't touch your phone for an hour prior to journal. Like, those are things that he preaches all the time. And,
Yeah.
And it's crazy because when I do those things, I feel like I have a better day and I feel a lot better.
The results are there, so
Right.
there's a lot of credibility. Another example would be like David Goggins, right? You don't want to go run as a runner who's training on a different training plan. You don't want to go like run 12 miles on broken legs, but you do want to kind of take the aspects of mental toughness from there, right? And kind of look at that and then take that away, and almost like having a network of role models that do different things and not following them like blindly, but like taking bits and pieces to build your own character. I feel like is a really good philosophy that you're kind of giving off. But to follow up, like, how hard is it to do that? You know what I mean? Like, how hard is it to find those role models and kind of get out of your own head with like comparing yourself to others and turning it into self-improvement and rather than self-doubt?
I think it just comes down to self-discipline and finding habits, creating habits slowly but surely. I think waking up and deciding there's a reason New Year's resolutions don't last is because people are trying to wholesale change how they live their lives. And so if I struggle grabbing my phone as soon as I get out of bed, I have to slowly realize that is the habit that I'm in, and I have to put the phone down and I have to make that conscious decision, and then that becomes better. I think trying to find habits, trying to find mentors, trying to find positive ways to compare yourself, reading is one of the best ways that you can do it. Listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks, reading articles. There's a ton of different ways that you can find these mentors and use your time productively. So many people say, "Oh, I don't have time to do this." Well, show me your screen time and I'll show you what your day can really look like.
Really good point.
And so if you have time to scroll on Instagram for an hour, you have time to read for 15 or 20 minutes. And if you can read 15 or 20 minutes, something along those lines, you're gonna finish like 10 plus books a year. And it's crazy to think about it in those terms, but if you can just plug away little by little, it's just like anything else.
And I have a quote floating around in my head. I just watched a movie last night, and they were talking about this. I contain multitudes. It's a Walt Whitman quote. And what that means essentially is you are made up of not just the people that you surround yourself with and the things that you compare yourself to, like you're talking about, but also all of the things that you experience. So the tricky part with that is interpreting those experiences and the people that you interact with, because it's if you're going through life with a negative mindset and with this ho-hum, everyone around me is so great and I could never live up to that, then the things that make you up are going to be like a net negative. But you could have those same experiences and just have a different way of looking at things, and your life could be completely different, just if you are interpreting things differently. Like, I follow this guy David Roach, who's training for Western States 100 miler, and I was sitting down. I always watch his videos whenever they come out, and he was doing a video. He was doing like a 50-mile tune-up race to just get ready for it, and every single rest stop that he went to, he would go up to the volunteers, and every person he passed on the trail, he goes, like, "I appreciate you so much," or he say, "You're amazing, you're awesome, you're great." And he goes in, he's racing 50 miles. He's on this trail for 7+ hours, and he is still, like, every rest stop he goes, "I feel like I haven't even started yet." And he sees his wife, gives her a hug, like, sees his kid really quick, and he's just like, "I appreciate you guys so much," every person he passes. And he's going into this with such positivity,
Gratitude.
Such gratitude. And I was watching that, and it kind of changed the way that I'm looking at things. Like, when we were doing that episode last week and we were talking about it, sometimes you just get up and you don't want to run. It's like it's a privilege to be able to do what we're doing.
You gotta change the language from I have to run to I get to run, I have to work to I get to work. It's part of the journaling thing. Is if you implement the gratitude journaling, which I think we've talked about maybe in the mental health episode, it's like you start to think like, oh, life's going so bad, but at least I have clean drinking water and food, and like there's a grocery store. Like there's some people that the quote, there's children in Africa. Like there are some people in third world countries that are literally like walking miles to water and like are not having clean food.
There's people in our country that have to do that.
Exactly. Like there's there's people in bad areas that don't get access to that. And I was gratitude journaling yesterday, actually. I haven't done it today yet. I ran this morning and came here, but
Excuses.
I'm doing it after this. And when I was gratitude journaling yesterday, I was writing about something and I finished and I started gratitude journaling and I was just like, well, I want to like fill out the rest of the page with gratitude, right? In like different words, right? That's what I usually do. I fill every line, and I like was looking around and I'm like, dude, I'm thankful for my desk. Like, can you imagine if I had to like sit there and like write on my lap? That would suck. You know what I mean? And I just started getting creative with it. You start getting creative with it, that's like when you know it's working, because you're finding new things every day. And if you can start gratitude for like something new every day, or like 5 new things every day, it has such a good benefit. And I think we've talked about it before, but it's something we don't talk about enough. We could do a whole nother thing on journaling. So I just think it's a really good thing. And going off the multitudes thing, and like you are the 5 people you surround yourself with thing, that quote, right? And then you are what you feed your brain. It's a one. So like the brain rot humor, which me and Dillon are so guilty of consuming on Instagram, is like I was watching like these just stupid like 2 brain cell memes on Instagram, right? We're all guilty of doing it. Like stupid. And one time I was scrolling for like an hour, and I get a like reel, and it was like the meme was going, and then it just stops, and it just goes like, me when I've been on Instagram for an hour and a half and then realize that I am what I feed my brain and need to get off. And it was basically like telling you to get off the app. And like that's when I realized I was like we can't be on this thing anymore. This is killing me. This is like if this is all you're consuming mentally, you're going to die. Like it literally is terrible for you. It is, and when they say brain, it's literally rotting your brain, because then when you get off of it and you go and read, right?
My journaling session this morning, I had a very Marcus Aurelius moment. I was like,
love doing
what
that.
type of a day do I want to have today? Because I wanted to be really intentional, because I knew I wasn't going to have to get up and like have a million things to do in the morning. And so it's, the summertime, I'm not quite as rushed in the mornings. And so I want to try to take a little bit extra time to do some of that stuff. But once again, I just started off and I'm having a better day. I feel way more organized today.
Being intentional about it and stuff.
Yep, exactly.
Being mindful, which is where the meditation comes in. And once you start, honestly, like all this we're talking about, once you start falling in love with that process, I feel like your vision narrows and you get that tunnel vision of just like loving the process and looking at the schedule every day of what's on the itinerary, what am I doing today, and being intentional about it. And I feel like that in itself as a umbrella kind of helps you to stop comparing yourself to others, because I compared myself to others a ton this whole year, and now when I'm in the process, like I feel better, you know what I mean? But so the last question I have on here is, if somebody listening to our podcast right now is struggling with comparison, what's one thing they can do today to shift their focus completely?
That's a good question. I think focus on the task at hand, focus on the controllables. You can't control what other people are posting. You can't control what other people are doing. You can't control what their path is and what their path looks like, but you can control your path. And you can control taking one step forward from where you currently are to trying to get to being a little bit better. And so I think, it's obviously good advice for all of us to heed, but control the controllables. So what is in your control, what isn't in your control. And if you're trying to get better, where am I? What can I do next, and how can I do it best? So where am I?
Sit there, stop, and kind of meditate on it almost.
What can I do now, and how can I do it best?
Yeah.
I think that's really, really good advice, because we live in a place now where it's just like anxiety riddles everyone. You're always worrying about, oh my God, like I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. How am I ever going to get a job? All this stuff. But if you really just take it, and a lot of times the advice is just like, oh, broaden your view. If you narrow your view a little bit and just be like, what can I do in this moment that will help me the best?
I think it was Elise Cranny was talking about how she read an article about what the Ethiopian and Kenyan women were doing in their workouts, and she started to think to herself, holy cow, like I couldn't do that. And then she took a step back and was like, I have no idea what their training looks like, and that's not where my training is. And so what is the point of me worrying about what they're doing? Like, I just have to try to get myself as prepared as I can to put myself in a position to go try and medal in a global competition. And I think that's it.
Absolutely.
That's it on a nail. Like, that's what we all need to focus on is, it doesn't matter what all these other people are doing. You have to trust your process. You have to trust your coach. You have to trust your plan. And so that some of that comes back to, are you setting goals for yourself? Once you set those goals, what are, the product and process? Like, so what is the process that you need to do to get there? And then are you actually following that process to get there? And if you are you giving yourselves little tiny rewards along the way to keep you enticing? And are you continuing to change and adapt and grow your goals as you get there? And then once again, where are you? What can I do next? How can I do it best?
And when you say that, I just looked it up to be specific. You think about 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts a day, somewhere in between that.
Yeah.
And it's like 38 to 48 thoughts per minute, right? Especially when you have like TikTok brain and your attention span's low. So asking yourself that question, I just want to say is like, that was a great take, because I think asking yourself that question kind of just narrows it and controls those thoughts better, because the whole thing is like, you think so many thoughts, how do you control those and filter those into ones that are productive?
And I mean, you can take this lens way out, you can take it way in. Oh, I'm comparing myself to what somebody looks like. I'm comparing myself to the school that somebody goes to.
Yeah.
I'm comparing myself to the training that somebody has. I'm comparing myself to the workout somebody had. I'm comparing myself to the person that throws in this big surge at 400 meters into a 1500, and I start negatively thinking about my fitness and where I'm at, instead of focusing on, do I need to cover this move, and should I cover this move?
Yeah.
And so once again, where are you? What can you do next? How can you do it best? Like, just focus, control the controllables. I can't control if somebody makes a big move in the middle of a 1500, but I can control whether I cover the move, whether I cover it stupidly and just sprint out to try to cover it, or whether I smoothly try to cover it, whether I decide that person is making a idiotic move and they're going to come back to us here in a little bit. And so those are the things that you need to be able to discern. And if you're worried about everything else that's going on around you, you can't focus on how you're feeling, what you need to do in this moment to have the most success that you possibly can. And I think that's what it all comes down to is like, is this helping me get better at what I'm trying to do?
Yeah.
And being a little bit selfish with it. Because if it's not, take it, crumple it up, throw it away, and move forward.
Yeah. I think Mixdorf used to say something I really liked. He was like, especially, this was specifically about racing, but I've kind of found this, and when I get overwhelmed, he's like, take that negative thought, like put it in a boat and float it down the river. And I always thought that was a cool way of saying that. It was good visualization for me.
Yeah, just drop it. And the other thing is narrowing the vision. Sometimes people don't have the same vision you do, and they can't see yours, so then you get shit for it, and like, it's just like about ignoring that almost. And I just wanted to add that, but if that's all
we got to click the content thing because you're swearing over it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just
We
kidding.
should get like a swear jar going.
Well, finishing up, let's get into the rapid fire questions. 4 of them. What is your favorite song from childhood? That's number 1.
Somebody else go first. I'm gonna have to think about this.
Okay, I think that mine is "Linger" by the Cranberries. That's an incredible song. I remember hearing that when I was like a kid, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, this is like girly. This is stupid. Like, I don't like this." And then now I work at the radio station during the year, and I'm like, every time I have like a spot to fill in, I'm putting in "Linger" by the Cranberries. 10 out of 10 song. Love it.
One of the most my gym teacher in grade school used to have a record player that she would use to play music while we were at gym. And Uptown Girl by Billy Joel was one of the songs that like I always really liked. So that was probably one of my favorite songs. Then if you really get into like more like pop music or what was on the radio, like I really liked MC Hammer and some of that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. I grew up around like pop music a lot. But I'd actually have to say some of the Beatles stuff, Come Together, was played a lot when I was a kid. So that was a really good song for me. So I'm gonna put that one. Next question. Alien contact or time trial, which happens first?
Time travel.
Time travel.
See, this is why I get messed up sometimes with these questions. They've already come out and said aliens exist.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
I,
But contact, like I'm talking like full, like they land out on the track and like everybody's gathering around and they're coming down like.
how do we know that already hasn't happened?
Well, I mean, like
we are the aliens.
we actually could be. We could be from Mars, and Mars had like a nuclear war, and then we flew over here.
We'll do an episode on that.
No, I'm saying like mainstream, like everybody knows, like we're living amongst them.
I think
walking around
I think
and there's
alien
like
contact, because I don't think we're close to time travel.
Well, I don't even think we've cracked
And
time
we
travel.
know
I'm going with
aliens
alien
exist,
contact.
so
I'm
that
going
would
with
be
alien
my-
contact.
that would be my
If you
answer.
could talk to animals, who would you talk to first?
Goose, baby.
I knew you were going to say
Goose.
goose. I wrote this yesterday, or I added these rapid fires yesterday, and I knew you were going to say goose.
It would be hilarious to
hear him talk.
to get to communicate with him.
What if he was just like, "Hey man, you're running me in the ground."
I'd be so sad. I'd be so sad.
Hey man, I didn't want to tell you earlier, but like my calf's been bothering me. Like, I would have to talk to my dog too.
I think that's the obvious answer. I would like to talk to just like gooses in general. I feel
Like
like they've
geese?
seen a lot.
Geese?
Geese.
If
Like
I
the
could talk
bird.
to a geese, I don't think I can say what I'd say to a geese. I hate
They've
geese.
seen a lot, you know. They just kind of go around.
I talk to a duck. See like
to a duck or a
what's
goose,
flying
yeah.
south that feel like in the winter. All right. What's your favorite app right now? I know we just talked about like social media being terrible. But what's your favorite app right now?
I mean, outside of Instagram and Strava, I don't really use my phone a whole lot. Like, I'd have to get on there and actually like look through. I don't.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to pull out the phone. Give me a
I
second.
know mine. I could say mine. Crossy Road, baby. Throwback. I've been
come on.
grinding the Crossy
Oh,
Road
come
recently.
on.
We're getting close to 300.
Oh come on. Oh please.
Um,
I got 3.
does Spotify count?
I was gonna
Probably
say-
be
I'm
my
gonna put that-
favorite. Yeah,
okay.
I'm gonna
Spotify
put-
might be it.
Give me 1 Spotify.
I go through shifts of athletic mania. My track and
you've
field
been-
game that
you've been-
nobody wants to
I've
get on
gone-
board
I
with.
got back on it for a little bit, but then I got distracted with Crossy Road.
Yeah, Crossy Road sounds awesome.
It's not. It's brain rot.
Yeah, I
It's
really
brain rot.
I really don't outside of Instagram and Spotify. You know, I have Fable is something I track all of my books that I read on.
Oh, okay.
But I've switched to Spotify currently for my audio stuff. I used to use Libby, but I got logged out and I can't log back in. So I got to figure that out this summer too.
At 1 for me is probably Spotify. At 2, give me Instagram, and at 3, give me ChatGPT. ChatGPT. I've been using ChatGPT a lot recently. It's so good.
You're the one wasting
At
a lot of
4,
water.
not I don't use it for stupid crap. I use it for meaningful research. But at 4, give me MyFitnessPal for the calories. But anything else? You said Crossy Road. Never mind. I don't even want to talk to you. All right. Well, thank you for listening to Relax and Fast. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, relaxandfast.pod. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Check out Goose's Strava.
Check out Goose's Strava.
Strava.
Yeah, Coach Eby on Strava. Running daily. He's
actually
going to
got
continue
2
to run
runs
back.
in yesterday. He ran with
doubled?
me in the morning.
Oh my
And
gosh, he
ran with
doubled.
Becky in the afternoon. So did Kettle. Kettle got.
They're
Kettle
running
got a
doubles
double in
now.
yesterday too.
Up there.
And then we went on a walk too. So Goose got some
Triple.
miles in
Little
yesterday,
active
man.
recovery. Yeah.
Burnt 3,000 calories.
And
All
if
right.
you're listening to this, if you've made it this far, come out to the Midwest Elite Track Meet happening on June 14th. Come say hi to us.
In Berea,
Get a
Ohio.
sticker, get a t-shirt, Yeah, we'll see you guys there.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you guys in the next episode.